Hoskins is going to get us started.
All right. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here this morning. Jason Hoskins, State Representative for Michigan's 18th District. And I'm so happy we're here to finally introduce this legislation, especially as we are going to be celebrating, a lot of us tomorrow, many communities around the state and around the country are going to be celebrating Juneteenth, a day when the last enslaved African Americans in Texas learned of their freedom more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Juneteenth is a celebration, and it's a celebration of resilience, of perseverance, of triumph over hope and oppression. But it's also a reminder that freedom and justice can sometimes be delayed, and when that is so, it is denied. It reminds us that the end of slavery did not end inequality. And it reminds us that while emancipation marked the end of one chapter, it did not erase generations of economic exclusion, political disenfranchisement, segregation, discrimination, policies that prevented Black Americans from fully sharing in the prosperity they helped create. And even here in Michigan, the facts speak for themselves. The Black-white household income gap in Michigan stands at more than $31,000 annually. Black Michiganders face documented disparities in maternal health outcomes, environmental exposure, access to credit, disparities whose causes can be traced through decades of discriminatory public policy decisions. And so if we are serious about addressing these challenges, we must first understand the harms that were done, the policies that perpetuated these harms, who's affected, and what remedies are appropriate. That's exactly what this legislation is seeking to do. Our package creates, one, a commission to study reparative justice and possible reparations for descendants of the enslaved. It develops recommendations from that commission. It establishes an Office of Freedmen Affairs to ensure the work has a permanent home within state government here in Michigan. And then there is my legislation, which improves data collection so we can accurately identify and understand the descendants. And my legislation in Michigan places descendants of enslaved Americans, African immigrants, and Caribbean immigrants into one single demographic. And while these communities share important experiences, they also have distinct histories and many face different outcomes. We need to be able to collect accurate data, because if we can't fully understand where the disparities exist, we cannot significantly understand the policies and policies that we need to put forward. No one with my legislation in particular is voluntary. We want to collect the data just to make sure that we are identifying the appropriate individuals to be able to give them the reparative justice that they deserve. This legislation will hopefully right a number of wrongs that our country has inflicted on Black Americans throughout centuries. And this legislation doesn't pretend to say that injustice can be solved overnight, but it does recognize that we cannot address the problem we refuse to study. We cannot address a problem that we refuse to study, and we cannot deliver justice if we are unwilling to do the work and put in the infrastructure necessary to understand what justice requires. And so, with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Representative Donovan McKinney.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here, especially the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus and a lot of our stakeholders. I'm State Representative Donovan McKinney, and I represent parts of Detroit on the south side of Warren. I'm excited to introduce this legislation today because every community deserves to know that its history matters and that its experiences are recognized. My bill in the package, House Bill 6111, would establish the American Freedmen Reparations Commission, an important step toward understanding our history and building a stronger future for Michigan. This package is rooted in the simple principle that good public policy should be informed by facts. Before we can address long-standing inequities, we have a responsibility to fully examine the historical record and understand how the policies of the past continue to shape opportunities today. Michigan has a rich and complex history. We entered the Union as a free state, and that is a point of pride in our history. But being a free state did not mean we were untouched by the repercussions of slavery or immune from the policies that perpetuated unequal opportunities for generations of Americans. From the enforcement of federal laws affecting formerly enslaved people to discriminatory housing practices, economic exclusion, and other barriers to opportunity, our state's history with inequity runs deep. This legislation establishes a process to examine the history carefully, follow the evidence wherever it leads, with the creation of an independent, time-limited commission that would bring together historians, legal experts, community leaders, and policy specialists. This commission will ask questions, gather facts, listen to communities, and ultimately provide lawmakers with the information necessary to make informed decisions. What my legislation does not do is prescribe any policy recommendation. The commission does. The opponents of this package will say it will give financial reparations. It does not. It gives a commission to provide a report. The legislature retains its right to appropriate and decide how to proceed with the commission findings and recommendations. Michigan has never conducted a statewide examination of its role in slavery, redlining, urban renewal, displacement, property overtaxation, and other documented discriminatory practices. Understanding our history is not about assigning blame to current generations. It is about understanding the long-term effects of public policies and ensuring fair opportunities moving forward. Similar commissions and studies have been undertaken at the local and state level across the country. For generations, American freedmen have helped build the wealth, culture, and economic strength of this country, while too often being excluded from the benefits of that prosperity. These bills are about truth, accountability, and creating a pathway toward equity through informed public policy. We cannot address disparities that exist today without understanding the policies that created them. Understanding where we have been help us decide where we need to go. We gather here on the eve of Juneteenth. History will tell us that slavery officially ended in 1865. And we all know that isn't the whole truth. My father-in-law, Robert Lattimore, was born in 1948 in Dublin, Georgia, which is located between Macon and Savannah. He was born as a sharecropper on a plantation. He would tell me stories about his experience growing up in extreme poverty, dealing with overt racism, and him and his family having very limited opportunities. He was then drafted into the Army. After serving a few years, he was honorably discharged. Then, like many blacks at the time with the Great Migration, he migrated up north to Detroit and worked at Chrysler for 35 years in my district at the old engine plant on 8 Mile and Mound. In August, it would be 3 years since he passed away from ALS at the age of 74. And let me tell you, that truth isn't far away from today. See, remnants of slavery still exist. Slavery has never been eliminated. It has evolved through black codes, Jim Crow, and now the current rollbacks from Congress and the U.S. Supreme Court of all the gains our ancestors have fought for, including DEI, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the 14th Amendment, which is our birthright citizenship, just to name a few. This is why our reparative justice legislation is much needed. I'm asking my colleagues to support us, give us a hearing, and pass it into law immediately. Thank you, and I would now hand it over To my colleague from the great city of Pontiac, we also known as Yaktown,
Don't back down.
Representative Brenda Carter.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you so much. I love that. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm State Representative Brenda Carter, and I represent Pontiac, parts of Waterford Township, and Auburn Hills. I am proud to be part of this package as a sponsor of the American Freedmen Affairs Act because good government works best when every community has a voice and every Michigander can effectively access the services and opportunities of our state. Michigan has established offices and commissions to engage with the advocates of many communities across the state. This legislation recognized that American freedmen's descendants of individuals emancipated in slavery in the United States also deserve dedicated offices to coordinate resources, conduct research, preserve history, and advise policymakers on issues affecting our community. The Office of the American Freedmen's Affairs will serve as a bridge between the state government and the people it serves. It will work to improve access to state programs, support genealogy and historical research, promote economic opportunity, engage with communities across Michigan, and provide data-driven recommendations to the governor and legislature. This package is built on the beliefs that effective policymaking requires engagement, accountability, and reliable information. Understanding our past and documenting our shared experiences strengthen our communities and ensure that future generations have access to our communities. And I look forward to continuing this work and ensure that Michigan is a state where every community is recognized and has a seat at the table. Thank you so much for this, and I represent Representative Helena Scott from Detroit.
Thank you so much, Representative Carter. So proud to be here today on this Juneteenth weekend, legislation that Governor Whitmer signed into law, my bill, 3 years ago. So I thank you to the bill sponsors for what you're doing. It's so important. I'm State Representative Helena Scott. I represent House District 8, which are parts of Detroit, Ferndale, and Pleasant Ridge. I'm proud to stand here in unity with my colleagues to support this package that's designed to better understand and preserve and support the history and experiences of the American freedmen in Michigan. This package reaffirms that history matters. It matters. The good public policy should be informed by evidence that every community deserves to have its voice heard in the policymaking process. Michigan has always been at its best when we're willing to confront challenges with honesty, listen to one another, and build institutions that serve the people. This package continues with that tradition by creating transparent processes, encouraging public participation, and strengthening the relationships between government and the communities it serves. Regardless of where we come from and what our perspectives are, we bring to this conversation. We can agree that understanding our history and preserving our heritage and ensuring that every community has an opportunity to be heard is worthy in its goals. I look forward to supporting these bills as they move through the legislative process. And thank you, and I'd like to introduce Ernest Russell, President of the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy Juneteenth Eve. Before we get started, I want to definitely give a special shout out to our co-founders, Dakima, Angela, Rose, Stedman, Gerard, Darvell, so many others who have contributed, Charlotte, so many important individuals who have contributed to us getting to this point today. I want to open up my remarks by stating that a great American once said that as Americans, we must practice our right to dream. And our dream is a Michigan that fully embraces both justice, and equality. We believe that justice is the twin of equality, and without justice, equality is incomplete, and without equality, justice remains unfulfilled. The two are inseparable. As we pursue this legislative process, we hope Michigan will commit to both principles as we work to form a more perfect union. I'll state that I also want to give thanks to all of the representatives and senators who we have met with over the last 2 years, as well as our coalition partners, the Deltas of Southfield, the alumni chapter. For each of the steps that they have helped us with has allowed us to get to this moment, and we know that going forward in the future there's going to be additional steps as we try to get each of these bills passed into law. As Rep. McKinney and Rep. Hoskins have pointed out, the commission bill seeks to establish a framework for the state to follow as it determines what was its involvement with the institution of slavery and what recommendations or remedies it should follow as a result of that involvement. A lot of people may ask why now when it comes to this topic. And I want people to know that the American Freedmen community, or descendants of persons enslaved in the United States, we are not a historical footnote. We are living witnesses and inheritors of a history carried forward by our families, our communities, and institutions. And while some hope discussions about slavery and its aftermath will simply fade away, justice has always depended on those willing to remember. These 3 pieces of legislation reflects a commitment to truth, reconciliation, and the unfinished work of ensuring equality under the law. History does not simply disappear because time passes. Justice requires remembrance, and remembrance requires action. And so with that, we hope, as we try to move forward, that we are able to work with our neighbors, our colleagues, community leaders, etc., as it relates to gaining support for all 3 pieces of this legislation. And as we move forward into future legislative sessions, we hope that these bills can become law. With that, I would like to pass the mic over to Venus Brown, the president of the Southfield Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta.
Okay. Good morning. I am Venus Joy Brown, the president of the Southfield Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and on behalf of our 500 members who serve Southern Oakland County, I am proud to stand here today with our chapter social action chair, Brianna Cartwright, in support of the American Freedmen Reparations Act. And you've heard from our Brenda Carter. Yes. This legislation is significant because it does not predetermine a reparations remedy. Instead, it creates a formal commission charged with studying the lasting impacts of slavery and discrimination, gathering testimony from communities across Michigan, and providing recommendations to the legislative on how to address those harms. If enacted, this legislation could help nearly 1.5 million people who are descendants of slaves in Michigan and whose families continue to experience many of the lingering effects of systematic discrimination. Our chapter, Southfield Alumni, has been engaged in this work for years through education, advocacy, and community dialogue. We are especially proud that Delta Sigma Theta Southfield Alumni Social Action Committee has helped develop and advocate for the legislation that brings us to this historic moment today. We also want to recognize our partner, the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan, who have worked alongside us throughout this effort. Their dedication to reparatory justice has helped move this conversation from aspiration to action. And we believe organizations such as the Freedmen Agenda League should have a voice and a seat at the table as this work continues. Finally, as appointments to this commission are considered, we hope individuals with demonstrated experience in reparations, advocacy, public policy, historical research, and community engagement, including members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, will be considered to help guide this important work forward. Today is not the end of this conversation. It is the beginning of a process that allows Michigan to honestly examine its history, listen to its people, and pursue meaningful solutions for future generations. Thank you. And I'd like to turn it over to my colleague and chapter member, Angela Enoch, who led this initiative in our chapter and is co-founder of the Freedmen Agenda League in Michigan. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Angela Enoch, and I am a co-founder of the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan, and I am also a member of the Southfield Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. Through my work with the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan that advocates for social and economic justice for the descendants of slaves, I was able to create a coalition, as it were, with the Southfield Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, which also has a history of advocating for social justice and economic justice. Through this collaboration, we were able to reach out to our representatives who also have a history of fighting for reparative justice and social justice. And the result of that is these bills that are being introduced today, and which makes me very proud and excited. I would like to thank all of the representatives, Representative Hoskins, Representative Carter, Mitchell McKinney, Representative O'Neill, and all the other members of the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus that worked tirelessly to put this together. As it's been stated, this is not the end, the introduction. This is just the beginning. We realize we have a long fight ahead of us. There'll be a lot of work to do, and we are already, we stand ready and able for that fight and for that work. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya Myers-Phillips, and I am the state representative for Michigan's 7th House District, representing parts of Detroit and the cities of Highland Park and Hamtramck. And I'm honored to stand with my colleagues and community partners as a co-sponsor of the legislation and extend extra thanks to the lead. I am reading a statement today from Mr. Keith Williams, who is a pivotal part of this effort, a thought leader and a policy leader in the reparative justice space, and the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party Black Caucus. So with that, I will read the statement from Mr. Williams, who wanted to be here today but had an emergency that prevented him from being here today. And Mr. Williams' statement, which all of us agree with wholeheartedly on this historic day, is as follows. Today is a historic day in Michigan and another important step towards economic reparative justice. I want to commend State Representative Donovan McKinney for sponsoring the reparative justice legislation, along with co-sponsors Helena Scott of Detroit, Brenda Carter of Pontiac, and Jason Hoskins of Southfield. Their leadership demonstrates a commitment to addressing the historical economic harms that have impacted African Americans throughout Michigan. I also extend special thanks to the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan for developing this important piece of legislation. Their work represents a thoughtful and meaningful effort to confront the legacy of discrimination and create pathways towards economic justice. As chair of the Michigan Democratic Party Black Caucus and the sponsor of Detroit's historic Proposal R, I am proud to stand in full support of this legislation. Proposal R made history as the first municipal reparations ballot initiative in Detroit and was approved by nearly 80% of the voters. That overwhelming victory demonstrated that Detroiters understand the importance of acknowledging historical harms and pursuing meaningful remedies. While this legislation alone will not solve every challenge facing African American communities, every journey begins with a single step. The Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan has taken that first step by helping to move the conversation from discussion to action. Progress is made when people are willing to confront difficult truths and work together to create solutions. The reality is that many of the economic disparities we see today did not occur by accident. They were often the result of public policies that denied African Americans access to wealth building opportunities in housing, business development, education, and infrastructure investment. One of the most damaging tools used against Black communities was urban renewal. Across Michigan and throughout America, thriving African American neighborhoods were targeted for demolition in the name of progress. In Detroit, the construction of Interstate I-375 destroyed large portions of historic Black Bottom and Paradise Valley communities, once vibrant centers of Black business, culture, and home ownership. In Lansing, Interstate 496 cut through established neighborhoods, displacing families and disrupting generations of economic opportunity. These decisions did more than remove buildings. They destroyed businesses, erased family wealth, displaced residents, and weakened the economic foundation of entire communities. The effects are still felt today in lower rates of home ownership, business ownership, and generational wealth among African Americans. That is why reparative justice is not simply about the past. It is about creating a more equitable future. It is about recognizing harm, understanding its impact, and developing policies that expand opportunity for generations. I commend Representative McKinney, Scott, Carter, Hoskins, and the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan for their vision and courage. Their effort represents an important first step towards addressing historical economic injustice and building a Michigan where opportunity is accessible to everyone. The road ahead may be long, but history teaches us that meaningful change begins when people are willing to take the first step. Today, Michigan has taken that step. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for questions.
Hi, listen, Scholar News Service. I have sort of a two-part question. My first question is, how much funding do you expect to need for both the office and the commission study?
So our estimate as far as appropriations for the study ranges between $3 to $5 million, and that estimate is based on the works of several other states that have engaged in this work. In addition to that, when you look at the city of Detroit, it costed them around $467,000 for a citywide study, and so we think that that number is appropriate for a statewide commission. As far as the office bill will require anywhere between $1 to $5 million in order for it to be operational and to deliver some of the services that are laid out in those bills.
Yeah. Now, my second question is, how do you see this moving forward during a hectic budget season and House Republicans sort of not looking to pass much legislation?
I think moving forward, we take this like we have in the past, and that's one step at a time. And so we know that there will be obstacles, yet, I think history shows that our ancestors, as well as, our parents, have always been able to overcome challenges of their generations. And so for us specifically, we'll take that as a challenge for this generation and hope to overcome that obstacle.
Yeah. And just wanted to add, as a member on appropriations, listen, budgets reflect priorities. And we, the recent president made recent remarks around January 6th rioters, actually committing and actually supporting and putting out a policy or at least a recommendation for them to get reparations. And so for me, if January 6th rioters can get it, why not the people who built this country?
How does the Legislative Black Caucus plan to leverage its power in the legislature to get this through so this doesn't just end today?
Jason.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and I like to think that too, with any of the initiatives that we are working on, I mean, each of us have a number of bills that we are trying to get through and get past the finish line. I'm leading efforts on getting the Michigan Voting Rights Act through. And just like many of my colleagues have said, you know, justice is something that we need to fight for, and justice is something that we need to be able to do everything we can to get forward. And as there are many things being worked on in the legislature, this is something that I know my colleagues and the leadership in the MLBC will be focusing on, along with a number of agenda items that we are hoping to get through this term.
Are you prepared to withhold votes on legislation if this doesn't get through?
We'd have to talk to the whole membership about what our tactic might be.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
suggestion.
But I want to say this. As one of the senior members of the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus, we understand how important it is for our future generations to benefit from our past generations' work. So we're not going to stop until we get this through. If we don't get it through this legislative session, we will do it the next one, and we'll keep on going just like our ancestors did.
On that note, do you have support of the full Democratic caucus? If you were to win another majority, do you have commitments from potential leadership that this would go through and actually get a vote on the House floor?
Helena, you want to take a start at that?
As always, we're always talking to leadership on policy, so I'm confident that this will be something that will be embraced by our caucus, as other things in the past have been.
And then just conversation-wise, sorry, I didn't want to ask other questions, but you know, you talked about Michigan's a diverse state. There's millions of Michiganders who are living with this, American descendants of slavery, et cetera. A lot of Michigan's diversity is concentrated in your districts, and so I'm wondering, you know, how do you convince some of your colleagues that are from Northern Michigan, from the UP, from West Michigan?
One of the things that I was privileged to do was to spend 2 days in the Keweenaw Peninsula. And I was able to see through their eyes. And most importantly, when the representative came to Pontiac, they were able to see through my eyes. So that is the point right there. Exposing our colleagues to the difference and the similarities. What I learned about going to the Keweenaw, I learned they had the same situations I had right in Pontiac. That is how you get your legislators on the other side of the aisle to see through yours.
Just wanted to add, this package is bipartisan, by the way. I had long conversations with my Republican colleagues, but one of them stepped up to the plate. I got to give him a shout out, Representative Roth, John Roth. He signed on to my bill because he believed that this is about the facts. Put emotions aside, put the cultural wars aside. This is about honoring and recognizing the harms that have happened years prior to now. So I asked any of my Republican colleagues, the Democratic colleagues who haven't signed on, and we got a lot of co-sponsors, but please take a look at it. This is about the facts, and we need to make people whole.
That's all.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.